Hello and welcome. I am Decravania, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the Azgaar Fantasy Map Generator. For reference, the Azgaar Fantasy Map Generator is what we, the region of Exodus, will be using as our map editing software for our regional roleplay. So strap in, buckle down, and get prepared for what will be a pretty long instructional video. Before anything else, you're going to want to find the Azgaar Fantasy Map Generator. Fortunately, this part in particular is extremely easy. All you have to do is go into Google and type in Azgaar, A-Z-G-A-A-R, click it, and the first result will be what you're looking for. Click that, and you're in. Now what you have to do is wait for the map generator to load, and then we can begin part 2. So first things first, you may notice that the map you see on the screen here may not be the Exodus map. Don't worry, that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. Every time you open up the Azgaar Fantasy Map Generator, it generates a new fantasy map. As cool as that is, that's not what we need. So here's how to get into our regular map. First thing you've got to do is close this, because it gets in the way. Then see this right here, up in the top left corner where my mouse is, there is this little brown arrow thing. What you're going to want to do is click that, and that's going to open up your best friend. This set of menus is going to be invaluable for your editing of the map. What you're going to want to do is go down here to the load button, click that, and then you're going to need to have the map file of Exodus on your computer. Now, we're going to be having these map files regularly updated in a digital repository, either on the forums or Discord, and possibly both. Before you get to this stage, you need to have that map file, .map, downloaded on your computer in an accessible place. The most recent one that I'm using is map 6, but you can have it named whatever you want. So you click that, and you open it, and then you wait for a little bit as the system deals with it, and then voila, you have got yourself one Exodus map. If it gives you a prompt like this, which it might not, but if it does, a map-sized conflict prompt, click Rescale. Part 3. Territorial Acquisitions. This is how to change the border of your country and make sure that your actual borders are represented the way they should be on the map. Let's say that you are Gelona and you have acquired some new land and you want it to be shown as your territory. What you're going to want to do is click into the Customize menu right here, and then you're going to want to go to the Countries button. Click that. Clicking this will open up the Countries editor, and this little editor will have all the tools that you need to really, with a fine-toothed comb, make the borders the way you want them to be. So in Gelona's case, you're going to want to move this little editor right out of the way, and then you're going to have to zoom in on Gelona. I'm going to warn you, one of the downsides of this platform is that zooming is kind of gross. It's going to sound bad in the recording because there's no slider. You just have to double click each time to get to where you want to be. So be prepared for some bad sounding stuff. So here we are, zoomed in on the Gelonan border. Gelonian, zoomed in on the Gelonian border. So what you're going to want to do next is go to the Manually Reassign Countries button right here. It's the 4th button from the left on the bottom of the Countries editor box. You're going to want to click that, and then you're going to want to select the country that you're editing, so Gelona. And then once you do that, if you were to scroll your mouse away from the country's editor's box, you would see this big circle surrounding your clicker. Now, if I were Gelona, I would probably want to move my brush size right down here. Want to slide that down to 1, because that's much smaller and easier to manage on a polygon by polygon basis. From that point, you're going to want to go from an area that is already territory, dragging your mouse to make it new territory, if that makes any sense. So to do that, you're going to want to click in what is already Gelona, and drag your mouse over to what you want to be the new Gelona. And you can do that for every polygon. You can do that for many polygons at once. And you can bring it through all this new area that you want to be territory. So let's say that you make a mistake. Let's say that you have gone too far into the neighboring territory and you actually need to dezone a few polygons. What you do then is just click on the nation that you zoned too far into, which in this case is the neutral nation. You can do this two ways. You can either click their name here, or you can just click land that is already zoned as neutral. That will change your clicker circle once again. Now it's white, and then you can unzone, put it back the way it was. So you can bring it all the way back. You really do have quite a lot of freedom, and that is how to change the borders of your country. Before you're not completely done though, before you click out of your country's editor, you are going to want to go over here to the leftmost button on the bottom here that says Apply Assignment. You're going to want to click that, and only then can you really be done. Part 4, Editing Culture. Editing culture works almost the exact same way as editing country borders. You're going to want to remain in the Customize submenu over here, but instead of clicking the Countries button, you're going to want to click the Cultures button. Once you click that, you're going to get a new menu that opens over here, a new toolbox, the Cultures Editor, and then on the map, you will see all of the cultures. So let's say that I want to edit this red culture right here that is over most of Farlandia and Freedharma. What you're going to want to do first is just zoom right in. And then go over to this second button from the left, the Manually Reassign Cultures button. And then, just like with your nation editor, your nation border editor, you're going to want to lower your brush size. You're going to want to click the culture in question. And then, polygon by polygon, you can go and edit which culture is which. So let's say I want to really get all of the expire here in one culture, as opposed to these little islands being something different. Just scroll right over them by clicking and pushing your mouse along, and they become the culture of what you had selected. But let's say I wanted to go the other way. Let's say if I really want to get the expire indented by some other culture, you would click that other culture, in this case Talion, and then scroll it right on back. Goodbye, Jurian culture. Part 5 is going to be editing non-topographical surface features. For the purposes of the Azgaar fantasy map generator, this includes things like rivers, routes, and burgs, which I'm going to go through one by one, though all of these happen in about the same way. For this example, I'm going to be working with, how about Kauai Village? So first, zoom in. You're going to want to get nice and close for this one, and actually going to go over to this island instead. Zoom right on in. And already you can see a few features already here. This orange line is a route. These little dots with names are all burgs. This one in particular has been generated into a port. Now, one thing you have to know about Kauai Village is that they definitely do not speak the Aztec language tree there. So I imagine that if Kauai were to come here and work on the nation right here, he would want to change these names to something more befitting of his culture, which would make sense. So here's how to do that. I'll begin with Burgs. You're going to want to click a burg itself. Doing this will open the burg editor. So these are all your options when it comes to burgs. I'm going to bring you through a few of the more important ones. First things first, you can change the label of the burg. So this is pretty crucial because by doing that, actually let me bring you through this one more time. In this main menu, that is the second from the left, it's the signpost icon. You click that, then that opens up a new menu, and then you're going to want to click the change berg name, and that will open up a text box. I'm going to rename this to, how about Tokyo? And then you will press enter. Never mind, that's totally not what you're going to do. You're just going to click this again, and voila, your berg is renamed. So there's a few other things you can do here. You can change the color of the berg, you can change the font, you can change the label. There's lots of fun stuff you can do, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to just bring us back to the main menu. There's other stuff you can do. You can change the icon for the berg, change the fill of the icon, change the size. That's all up to your discretion as a nation owner. You can also, if you want to, click this button, which will create a little fantasy city layout for the berg in question. And here's an important one. You can move your berg. That is going to be the fourth button from the right. If you were to click that, what you would do is you would scroll your mouse over the berg symbol, then you would press down and move it to where you wanted it to go. Note that doing this does not move anything else around it. It doesn't move the route. It doesn't even move the berg name. You'd have to do all of that manually later. So there you go. If you really want to, you can even add text notes about your berg. So if you were to click this, you could put in a little description about what the berg is. A lot of the countries in this game have 50 or 60 bergs, and even more if you want them. So I wouldn't say that's especially necessary, but it's a thing you could do. And then, last but not least, over here, second from the right, there's a little button here that allows you to create a new berg. So let's say Tokyo is not enough. You want Kyoto as well. You could put it right next to it, or really anywhere you want. And then if you're really caring about changing the name, you could go to label, and you can go to this pencil and change the name as you so desire, and voila. And that's part one. There's a lot of other stuff like this. I'm going to go through them faster because a lot of them work in a pretty similar way to editing the bergs. But next will be routes. To do that, you're going to want to scroll over a route until you see down here at the bottom of your screen a little text prompt that says, click to open the route editor. You're going to want to click. And then you can edit all of these routes. As you can see, cities or bergs that the route goes through are highlighted in red. There's also some information about the berg, how long it is, not the berg, the route, how long it is, things like that, and so on. So if you would like to change how your route is working, or even better, make a new route, you would click over here, the second farthest from the left. That will allow you to plot out a route, location by location, wherever you so desire. So here is my route to the sea. Ta-da! Kind of messed it up there at the end, but still, you can make yourself routes in that way. And there's a few other things that you can do with your routes, but mostly that's going to be what you want to do. Really only that. If you do want to actually edit a route itself, you will, those red dots that I mentioned earlier, these are movable. If you scroll over them and click, you can move them. They will automatically curve it to make it look a little more natural. So let's say that you want to have the route between Shimokokokan and Tokyo remain, even though Tokyo has been moved itself already. you can move your route to bring it back to the way it should be. So last but not least, we're going to cover rivers. For this one, I'm going to leave behind Kauai Village. To do this, you're going to want to reset your zoom, because zooming out is a big pain using this this platform, and go to a place where there's a river. So I'll bring you over to the currently unused Dequirvanian city-state right here. Zoom right on in. Once you do that, you're going to scroll your mouse over the river and see that same text prompt down at the bottom. So click to open the river editor, and voila, your river editor is open. You've got lots of fun little options here. Over here on the left, you can change your river width and make your river look really stupid. Or you can make it look really, really tiny also. You can regenerate your river if you want it to look just a little bit different, but still maintain the same basic shape. You could visually transform it. You could copy it. You can edit the notes for your river just like you could with the Burgs and the routes earlier. And if you want to, you can also plot a new river. When you're plotting a new river, you're going to want your first point to be your source and your last point to be your mouth, or else your river is going to not really look correct. So here's my source over here, and then plot every point that I want my river to go through. So I want my river to go through Florin, so bring it right on through, and then come back down to the coast and deposit the sediment and water here. So that's how it is done. That is how you make your rivers. That's how you make your bergs and your routes. That's what you need to know. The next step is learning how to deal with markers. These are pretty important when it comes to making war maps, because they can show where forces and ships are. So here's how they work. The first thing you're going to want to do is be in your Customize menu, the fourth one over from the left. Then you're going to want to click this marker button down here. So if you click that, that allows you to place a marker. You can put it anywhere you want. For today, I'm going to put it between Wintany and South Canada, as though we're going back to the first war of South Canadian aggression. But before I place it, I'm probably going to want to zoom in. So I will do that just to make sure I'm extra specific with where this marker ends up going. Get it nice and centered. Then I'll click my marker button again. And then wherever I click next is where the marker is going to be. So I'll put it right here off the coast of Wah. So as you can see, there is a little question mark here. That means that your marker is unspecified. You're most likely going to want to specify that marker. To do that, you're going to want to click it to open the marker editor, and then you've got all these options. The most important one, I would say, is this one, the star, the second from the left, because this is what allows you to change your marker icon. So as you can see, you've got all of these choices here, though there is an important note that the icons will look different in different browsers. So I don't actually know if they're going to be different versions of the same icons or different stuff entirely. I'm just going to go with right now that they are different versions of the same icon. And because this is a ship, I'm going to go over to this very last icon, which is an anchor, and click it. So as you can see, the marker has changed. There's now an anchor representing that place on the map. If you click the star, you go back to your main menu. As you can see, there are plenty of other options for things that you might want to do, most notably changing the marker size and color, which is nice and easy. You have a color editor over here. You have a size editor right here. That's a little too big. So you can change the size as you see fit. You can also toggle the display. So as you can see here, the marker is without the bubble. You can put it back. You can change the marker description. This may be nice, especially for archived versions of the map, if you want special information about what was happening at that marker at that time, or better put, why the marker is there at all. just like with the bergs and the rivers and the routes, you can put in special information about what was happening at a certain place at a certain time. And then once you click out of the Legends editor, if you were to scroll over your marker, that information would come up in the top right corner of your screen. You have actually two other important buttons over here. You can add an additional marker of that type. So let's say Wintony had 2 ships instead of 1. You could put it down you can put them down right next to each other as many times as you do so please. And last but not least, once the ships are out of the water, you can remove that marker by pressing this trash can button. And it'll open up a little remove marker dialog. Press remove if you really want it gone, and voila, it has disappeared. Every time you want to mess with a marker, all you've got to do is click on it. Last but not least, we're going to talk about geography, and this is a little different, so bear with me. So there are a few different ways to do this. I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest one, and my testing grounds for this particular thing are going to be this rightmost continent right over here. So here is what you need to know about working your geography. First, as usual, you're going to want to zoom in because a fine-toothed comb is the best kind of comb. Once you're where you want to be, this is going to be our little testing region right over here. What you're going to want to do is go to relief icons. That's going to open up this little box right here, edit relief icons, and see there's lots and lots of options in here, and it's an interesting little thing. What you have to do for most of the icons, most of the things that you do in this box, you have to click something up here in this first row of buttons, and you also need to click something down here in the second row of buttons. If you have both of these clicked, you have quite a lot of variability in what you're able to do. So I'm just going to go through what all of these buttons do. This one edits a selected relief icon. This one places relief icons in bulk. This one erases relief icons in bulk. This one can copy a relief icon. This one can change the order of relief icons in terms of visibility. This brings it forward, this brings it back, and that deletes a relief icon. These are the relief icons themselves. Down here at the bottom, you've got a mountain, a hill, one type of tree, a pine type of tree, a tropical tree, a swamp, a sand dune, and then this last button here, any, is of course referring to all of the relief icons. I should specify all of these bottom things here are relief icons because they all specify geography. So how to make them work? We're going to begin with editing a selected relief icon. So I'm going to click that button, and then I'm going to, just for example, click this button, which means I'm editing mountains. And more specifically, I can edit one specific mountain of my choice with these two selected. So I can take this mountain, just this one singular mountain, and put it somewhere else. Not in the sea, of course, because mountains don't exist in the ocean, but anywhere on land. I'll put it over here on this island to make for a really weird looking thing. You can of course do this with any icon that you have. So if I were to click over to this and then move one of these hills, the same thing would work. If I wanted to move one of these trees on top of one of the hills, that would work too. You've got lots of options. But let's say you want to do something bigger. Let's say you want to create a mountain chain as opposed to just moving one singular mountain at a time. That is perfectly fine. What you're going to want to do is click over to here, and that's going to open up a few new sliders for you. I've set a mountain chain, so we'll go back to the mountain button down on the bottom. And now you've got lots of options. You can change what size your mountains are. You can change how wide your radius for placing the mountains are. So if you make it smaller, your little placement circle becomes smaller also. And you can also change the spacing of the mountains, how dense you'd like your mountains to be placed. So for a high spacing, you will get something like this, almost none, and with a low placing, you'll get far more, very densely packed mountains, a true mountain range, if you will. So here you go. It's just like I said, you've got to click and then slide. And once you do that, you can really go crazy. Let's say you want your mountains quite a lot bigger. Same thing. All you've got to do is move your slider and say you really just want to go crazy. Make the whole region nothing but mountains. You can just go absolutely wild. And that's how it works. Let's say you want that to look just a little bit better. That's what these guys are for. You can click one specific relief icon like I did and push it right on back. You can do that with all these to make this look like just a bit more of a consistent mountain range type feel. You can really mess with them as much as you want. Here, I'll go to this mountain right here, pull it right on forward. You have lots and lots of choices. But let's say that you've decided that this mountain range is a little too gaudy for you and you would like to erase. Same exact process. You go over to your erase key. You can change how big or small the radius of your eraser is. And then you click and you drag over the places that you want things erased. Remember that right now, this only erases mountain icons. So you won't be erasing your trees and you won't be erasing your hills unless you specifically select this any key, which will then work to erase any relief icon and not just a mountain relief icon. So that is how it works. That's how you can create your new topography as you see fit. If you think that your nation needs a mountain region that is not represented in the map, do it. If you want a swamp, put it on in there. If you just want some very nice little pleasant pine forests, well, you can absolutely go for it. You have so much choice. One final thing, you guys are probably going to want to know how to save your map and how to make sure other people can edit it later. So there's a few things that you're going to want to do, but it is really quite simple. You're going to, in this layout submenu over here on the far left, you're going to want to go to Save As. Click that. That's going to open up this little menu down here. There's two formats that you would usually save your map as. Number one is a .map, and this is the format that you need to save a map as to allow other people to edit it later. So how this would work is you would save the .map and you would put it onto the Exodus map digital repository, as I mentioned earlier, either on the forums or the Discord. We have yet to decide as of April 2019, but you will post your map edits there, so then other people can download that map and then come in here and edit it and make their own changes. So you would want to download that to somewhere you see fit on your computer. That's one thing that you could do. And then the other thing that you might want to do is download it as a picture or a .png. This is for posting to the Discord or the forum as a reference without something that's easily accessible to anyone using a computer. I will warn you that this takes a pretty high quality picture, so high quality that it might be above the file size limit for Discord. If that happens, you're going to need to host this image on another image hosting website and then post the link to that website in Discord or on the forums. I personally would suggest using either Gyazo or Imgur. That's actually the first time I've ever said that word out loud. So excuse me if I got the pronunciation correct or incorrect. And yeah, that's what you need to know. This concludes the video on the Azgaar Fantasy Map Generator. I thank you all for watching, and I hope that I taught you guys something on how to make this work for you. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Long live Exodus.